Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Last Cycle Heart Podcast 2 After Dark, Episode 2. Yes, I've been holding off for a little over 2 weeks of doing a podcast. That is because I've been moving apartments, and I have been waiting for this special guest to finally hop on the microphone with me, and it's finally happened. I am so excited for you to be able to listen to this podcast. He's a very cool dude and also very intelligent. Welcome to the microphone, Dalton Yates.
Glehart podcast. You are listening to the Last Glehart. You are listening to the Last Glehart podcast.
All right, we're rolling now.
All right, man.
All right, what's up, dude?
Hey, man.
Man, I've been wanting to try to get this thing in for a while between you and I, but I don't know. It just hasn't.
It should have happened, but I'm glad it's happening now. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm glad to be here. I can't think of a better host.
Oh, well, I appreciate it, man. If it wasn't for you hitting the group chat up and saying about your radio show,
Yeah, man.
I probably would have been like,
It's coming soon.
Exactly.
I might exchange the favor, have you on sometime soon.
The radio show?
Yeah.
So what do you do on it?
So basically, UCA has a radio station in its basement of all places. It's like a labyrinth. It's a full-on maze down there. But they run an FM radio station, and you can sign up per semester to run a show. And with your show time, be an hour, it can be 2 hours. You can do what you want. You can play just strictly some music. You can get on there and talk for an hour or two, or you can kind of do a little bit of both. So I did this. I'm a super senior now. I did this for my freshman, sophomore, and then junior years. But then right after that, COVID shut things down, of course. So the last show I did was in March 2020. So now finally opened the radio show back up, and all my old original co-hosts have graduated. So I'm looking for some guest spots. I'm looking for some co-hosts, and we'll see where it goes, man. I'm ready to bring it back. It's called The Real Facts.
The real facts?
The Real Facts.
So do you just were we just talking about like just real things and
Man, anything.
Anything?
No topic is out of bounds. Free smoke for any topic is what we say. And usually if I had some co-hosts, we will, kind of collaborate ahead of time. What do you want to talk about this week? It can be current events. It can be music. It can be sports debates. We kind of kept it pretty fresh, man. So
I want that on a T-shirt. Free smoke for.
Man, I don't think I've come up with that, but that would be something to trademark.
So I'm telling you, every time that I have a guest on this podcast, I want to create a T-shirt correlating to just that specific guest, and then just put it out there.
Man, I need to get some royalty though if you do that.
Oh,
broke college student here, so.
Oh, hey, I dropped out, so
I understand.
Yeah, so we can definitely get things rolling here, especially if the T-shirts go good. It all depends, but for sure.
I mean, I went to school to be a computer scientist, switched my major to be a graphic designer, but I'm not against just total fashion design, last minute change. We can make that happen.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, I saw also that you brought the Bible when you came in here.
Yeah, man.
Exactly. So the topic that I sent you that we were talking about was boxing. Is YouTube boxing ruining?
Right. Okay.
Ruining the thing, and then the companies that come out with like satanic, not so Christian things, would you still buy for those companies?
Right.
And I was wondering if you had Bible verses correlated to Jake Paul's.
Man, look, I looked on every resource, every study Bible. I couldn't find anything about Jake Paul. I tried. It was not for lack of trying.
How do you feel about the YouTube boxing scene though?
Man, some of it's better than others. Like, I've seen some fights where, like, it's celebrity boxing night, and, like, who are these people? Like, they're not really celebrities. Nobody, like $5 pay-per-views. Nobody's really paying attention to that. That probably ought not be a thing. And then some of them are, like Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather. That was kind of a joke. But then some of them, it's like, yo, you've kind of got the skill. You've got a little bit of technique that you're doing. So I don't know if it's overall good or bad for the sport. Like, it's bringing attention to boxing, which is good. As a boxer, as a boxing fan, like, I'm glad there hasn't been a lot of attention on boxing lately. But then again, it's like some of it is also kind of making a joke of the sport. Jake Paul's got skill, man. I'll give him that. He knows the technique. He's probably out of all of them like the least of a joke. Believe it or not. I hate that I'm saying that. Like, I don't know how he would do with, like, a professional boxer of comparable age. Like, if he could really go in with him or not. But he does have my respect that he at least knows the technique. Like, he's kind of like your old head guy down at the gym playing basketball. Like, he knows what he's doing, even if he's probably not about to join the NBA, So he's got my respect there.
I mean, I agree with you. on the whole thing about how it does bring more attention to it, because it's kind of like the UFC and boxing. Like way back in the day, it really didn't have much attention. So then therefore the rules have over time have correlated and such, and they've built a really big base. But I'm a huge UFC guy.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I like watching UFC fights, and my thing is that if they're gonna start doing this stuff where they had like the TikTok versus YouTube boxing thing,
that was kind of whack.
I don't know, because it's, and then they'll start calling. They will literally beat somebody up that's had no boxing background whatsoever, and then they'll call out like some big heavyweight, like national champion. They're like, "You're next, dude. I'm coming for your belt."
Right.
And it's like some high school fight.
Like exactly. Like if to continue with basketball analogy, like let's say I go down to the UCA Hyper Center and I just pick out some random dude in the crowd and just piece him at basketball. Like I smoke him. I'm not about to get on Twitter and call out LeBron James. Like, it's just, it's not, it doesn't correlate.
It doesn't at all. And so I kind of feel like that it's kind of making a mockery of the people who actually do the sport and have actually taken it seriously.
I can see that.
And, I mean, I don't really mind it per se. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the same thing. I don't know. I don't know if this correlates really well with it, but you know how musicians, when they perform other people's songs and they make money off of it?
Right.
I kind of feel like that kind of goes hand in hand.
I can see that.
A little bit, because I don't agree with that either.
Yeah, it would, I mean, you really got to, especially like with that, if you don't get your copyrights right, if you don't clear the samples, like that's basically stealing, you know.
Well, I mean, I went to Nashville.
Right.
And I see people, like, there was the, what was the building called that was over? Have you been in Nashville before?
A couple times, yeah. It's been a minute.
I think it's the Kid Rock Cafe.
Yeah, okay.
It's the 4-story, like, thing, and they'll have bands playing, but they don't play their original songs.
No.
They're getting paid to play, like, Elvis Presley and some other country
riding on their coattails a little bit.
Yeah, that's all they're doing. And the reason why I think that's so fascinating is because, like, coming from a comics perspective, is like, I do stand-up comedy. It is completely frowned upon.
You do not steal jokes.
No, you go on stage and you say somebody else's joke, you are canceled. You're completely over with. Because I'm telling you this much, if it was allowed, and someone was like, "Hey, Dawson, you know, could you pull out like a Robin Williams bit real quick and go up on stage?" I'm like, I mean, I would love to. I mean, you're going to pay me to do that? I mean, I know these jokes kill, so I'm going to go ahead and go do that.
Right.
But I just don't think that's right.
It's interesting, man. It is wild. I don't know, man. It's kind of a weird space because like there's some musical cultures, I guess, that it's more okay. Like you don't get ghostwriters in hip hop, but then like there's some blues songs that every blues artist ever has played. So I don't know. As far as the boxing goes, like if it's a mutually accepted thing, like obviously Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul both knew they was going to make some bank on that. Oh, they were both in on it.
Every 12-year-old was going to be all on that.
Exactly. And like they weren't really boxing. But then like some nobody that's had a YouTube or a Vine career or something calls out some legend of the sport, or they just using their name for money. So
well, my thing is like when Jake Paul called out Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I mean,
it was not any light like calling out. He was straight up like it was bad. And I was like, man, Connor, are you gonna say anything? I mean, but then at the same time, it's like, from my perspective, I'm like, dang, he really did. But then you look at someone like Connor, and you're like, that's literally just a fly on the wall to him. Like, it's,
exactly.
Literally, it'd be a waste of his time. He wouldn't be making any money.
His legacy's kind of secured. He may be at the end of his career, so I don't know. I can see that. One other thing is I can remember the actual boxing match that I watched that inspired me to go get into boxing, like go join the gym, go join the clubs, like start training. And like I remember like, yo, this was just some incredible boxing. I want to learn that. It's kind of they call it the sweet science is a nickname for boxing. And if like some kid watches a Jake Paul fight and is like, yo, I want to get a part of that. Like I want to learn this. That's great for the sport. But then again, do all the it's like the ESPN like social media accounts and like all the media coverage around these joke fights, like does that detract away from the talent that's actually in the sport right now? And it's kind of a fine line there. Boxing's got like some all-time talent right now that it hasn't had in the last couple of decades, but like nobody's really following these stars. Like they're not really getting the attention. So it's kind of an interesting spot. It's kind of it's not really black and white. I can see where there's positives and negatives.
I agree, and the thing is though is I also think of the other side of it. I think of something my brain goes to a different side of things
Mm-hmm.
that maybe we can maybe people could start not so much capitalizing, but if they want to go take boxing and UFC and they want to make it like in the entertainment factor of doing these TikTok, YouTube things, let's do it with politicians.
I mean,
I'm telling you, you get a Democrat and a Republican or whatever
just a
party they're
pay-per-view
in.
debate.
No, not even pay-per-view debate. They fight.
Yeah. Oh.
They
I mean,
fight.
brother. I think.
Dude, why not?
Hold on.
And the best one wins.
I think that didn't Mitt Romney have a boxing match like back in the day? Oh, I feel like Mitt Romney boxed somebody.
Hold
like
on, do you have your phone on you?
Yeah.
Hold on, because dude, I would like to know if Mitt Romney had a boxing match because maybe we would have had Mitt Romney as a president instead of Barack if that dude could actually fight.
I really feel like Mitt Romney had a box. That's just such a specific memory for him not to have fought somebody. Hey, I'm with it, man. Look, let's you gotta get a really good ref. Did he really?
Let's see here. Mitt Romney rumbles with Holyfield.
Evander Holyfield. He did. I forgot about that.
Oh, he fought in a charity boxing match in 2015
against Evander Holyfield.
I did not know that.
All-time event. Another thing, Evander Holyfield is 58 years old, and he's got a boxing match coming up like in a couple of weeks. Like,
hold on, so they did that for a charity event?
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I don't know why.
So that just takes my thing and just like proves it. Like
Exactly.
we need to have that because I would be entertained.
I mean, I would too. There's a couple politicians. I mean, I wouldn't wish ill on nobody, but it would kind of be funny to like watch them put on a charity.
I know.
I would donate to charity to watch some politicians spar.
Yeah, seriously. I would be like, where do you want me to donate? Take my money.
Let me ring announce. Like
exactly. And I feel like we should do the same thing with like every celebrity. We do it with rappers.
Yeah.
We do it with.
We'll really settle the beef.
Yeah. Seriously, you take it from the mic. And you put those words into real life, and because then it makes it really interesting, and you're actually owning up to your saying, and you're like instead of like
it's
all
an
these.
interesting concept.
Oh.
Here's what we got to do. We need to get like an actual boxing match to like be the main event, but then like have an undercard like charity night of all of these. Like joke fights and stuff like that. I would watch as a fan of the sport. I would watch.
I would watch, and since that we now have this idea, we automatically have to have we're the announcers.
Yes.
Yeah. We. This is how it's got to be. I mean, I really could care less about royalties and money and stuff like that. As long as I just get to just commentate and be there firsthand to see these fights.
If it was in Britain, you could call it the Royal Rumble. Just have like
that would be
all the royal family. Let's
the royal. Oh man, the royal family beef. Have you ever seen like the inquiries?
There's
the magazines.
There's some weird stuff, man.
Have you ever looked at those and just go
the National Enquirer and stuff like
that?
Yeah,
who gets these stories?
It'd be like Archie's dad is an alien. I'm like, come on, come on, out of
Queen Elizabeth is I forgot what it was. It was like Queen Elizabeth cheated or whatever.
Yeah. And like at 90 years old, she's stepping out. Like
and it just has her one picture with her glove taking it off.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then all of a sudden it'd be like Hugh Jackman, $590 million fine or something like. You're like, hold on.
I used to work in a grocery store, man, and like every week or whatever when we got those new shipments, it was always an event. It'd be like, and some of it's like just borders on just like outrageous. It'd be like O.J. Simpson and Princess Diana's secret romance revealed. It's just like there's no way in the world.
Oh man, you know that dude has a Twitter?
I know it.
And
I don't follow it, but it's pretty wild.
I don't. I am surprised that he even wants to be on social media.
I know some pretty reputable people that I trust that like regularly follow this man on social media. It's kind of wild.
Oh, you have friends that like follow him like regularly?
Yeah, it's
just
crazy.
just for the humor, or just
it
like
must be. I don't.
Or
know.
just for just like the fact, man, like he's a great at tweeting.
He has really mastered the art of tweeting, I guess.
And speaking of tweeting, I like your tweets, dude.
Man, I'm new to the game. I'm new to the game.
You're new to the game, but the way that you tweet is like you've been doing it for a while.
Oh, really?
Honestly, I mean,
I had a Twitter
because I like more tweets like that because there's a lot of people on Twitter, they just put tweets out there just to get likes, such as like something political or something just outrageous, and where I like just the humor or like just the ones that are just like just dumb or just like whatever, like what you're doing or whatnot. And then I saw yours and I was like, Okay, I'll vibe with his tweets.
I follow a couple of political peoples, across both sides of the aisle, mostly for news source, but like only a handful, man, because that can get really toxic real fast. And but yeah, I had a Twitter when I was like 12, back in 2011. I'm old. But also, I deleted it for years and years and years, and I just got back on it like maybe a month ago. So I'm still new to the game. I got like 15 followers. Big time.
You are big time. For Twitter,
the blue check mark is coming.
I'm not kidding. Like for Twitter, that's like 150 followers for Instagram.
Really?
Like
Okay.
I think the ratio is kind of like that.
I can see that.
I don't know if that's true, but you looked at me, you're like, man, Dawson knows his.
Okay, I was impressed.
He knows his measurements, but I find it really hard to get followers on Twitter a lot of the times. Because I had Twitter for the longest time, and then I just started having a bunch of bots follow me.
Definitely.
And then it's like, hold on, you look like you have all these followers, but then you have absolutely no action on your tweets at all.
Definitely. I mostly use it just for the other people that I follow. Different writers, authors, pastors, things like that. But
I
have a lot of fun with it.
Oh, for sure. The reason why I'm glad I have it back is because I love looking at the trending.
It's always something wild.
There always is something wild going on that I would just never know because I don't watch the news regularly. Yeah. So it's just I go on there kind of to get my scoop of what's going on.
Definitely. You
gotta
be careful, man. But sometimes it's wild.
Well, just a little teaspoon, just a little, kind of just like, oh, okay, cool.
What is Kanye doing? Like,
what is Kanye? Speaking of Kanye, have you listened to his Donda album?
Man, I gotta confess, I have not listened to it all the way through. It's like 2 hours long, but I have listened to parts of it, and some of it is better than others. But there's some things in there I like.
Have you listened to Hurricane?
I have listened to Hurricane.
Okay. At least we have something to talk about.
It's a good one. Hurricane is good.
Okay, so of what you listen to, how do you feel?
So my
favorite... I guess, okay, the better question would be is how do you feel about it in general? And then how do you feel about it, like, from a Christian standpoint?
So I'm not a super fan of Kanye. I've listened to most of his stuff, all of his albums. I think I've listened to all of his albums. I will say it's some of his best material that he's put out in 2 or 3 albums. So probably going back 6, 7, 8 years. So that was cool. I'm glad he's in at least maybe a little bit of a clearer headspace than he was 2, 3 years ago. He had some wild things going on. He does at least seem to be, doing okay as far as that. Musically, there were a couple songs that I liked. I liked Jesus Lord. I liked Hurricane. I liked Jail with Jay-Z. Maybe No Child Left Behind was kind of a cool outro. So there were some things in there I liked. I'll probably replay it a little bit. I do need to listen to it front to back. From a Christian side, I don't know. A lot of Kanye's, and he may still be a new believer. I don't really want to talk to the state of his faith, but a lot of the way he expresses his faith is really centered on like his own self-image. I think when he did that Jesus is King album, he talked about like he was connected his faith to like how much he charges for his products in the stores and how he's making money. And that's the signs of a new believer. A lot of times when you really step into the faith, it's centered on your own experience, how well you're doing, either financially or things like that. And that's signs of a little bit of an immature faith, but maybe a growing one. So he kind of frames the way he talks about God a lot of the way that he talks about himself. I mean, going back to like Jesus when he had a whole song called like I Am a God. Like that is... Yeah. So he's come a long way from that. But... it's not...
Was that back with, like, when he made Jesus his king or something, or, like, Jesus Walks?
Jesus Walks was, like, off his very first album.
That was, like, 2011 or something like that.
It might have been his first single, but he's talked a little bit about Christian themes throughout his career.
Which interests me.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes more than others. But if I was really looking for, like, some really... I don't know, edifying or like depth in my Christian rap, that would not be where I would go. But I'm glad he's at least sharing his own experience and the way God has helped him through stuff.
And I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know this is, I've noticed that I've said I totally agree with you like 5 times. I guess is we're just always on the same
It's gotta
page.
be.
But also, I just want to let everybody know, like, I want to know that the one time that I have somebody on here that I just don't agree with. Like, I want, like, just like, look, I totally disagree with you.
You gotta get some least persuasive people. You gotta get outside of your echo chamber, man. Come on.
Well, I know, seriously, I just came in here, I just want people on here to, like, where I just agree with them. No, I like people who challenge me.
Okay.
I really do. But also, I like to have just intelligent, well, when I mean intelligent, someone who's done their research
Okay.
on subjects and stuff like that, to where, you know, it's not just pulled from thin air or whatever.
Gotcha.
And if you honestly don't know something, that's one of the things that I've had to work on in my past, is sometimes I try to just pull something out of thin air that I don't know what I'm talking
There's
about.
no shame in admitting you don't know anything, man. I think a lot of social media would look different if we're just like, I'm not the expert on this.
For sure. But people try to pull something from thin air just to get the likes.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
It's
But
tough. It's tough not to do.
But the Kanye album, I listened to most of it.
Yeah.
Not all of it. And I'll be 100% honest. It's not my favorite Kanye album.
I can agree with that.
Because, hold on a second. Yeah, alright, cool. You just shut off.
Are we still good?
No, we're still good. I was just, it's just, sometimes I have to move the cursor around.
Gotcha.
And to make sure that everything's going good. But yeah, as of right now, we're good. We're solid. But, it's not my favorite Kanye album. I have not been, like, a huge Kanye fan.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I was raised to early 2000s rap.
Right.
And my mom and my dad, when they got divorced when I was 11, my dad was like rock and my mom was rap.
Okay.
So I would be Red Hot Chili Peppers one week and then Eminem Recovery album the next week.
Okay.
I think this is a theory. I'm probably wrong, but I think this is a theory. I think a lot of divorced kids like Eminem as their rapper. Like, I think.
I mean, he does kind of talk about that in some of his songs.
I think like if you like if someone says, hey, dude, Eminem's probably like at least my top 5 favorite rapper. I was like, hey, you come from a divorced family, haven't you? And they're like, how'd you know? I'm like, dude, it's the Eminem, dude. And it's just a theory I've been working on. But
That's interesting.
You
You need to do some prior research. A little more. Tell me. You have to follow up on this thought in a little while.
Oh yes, I
Do
will
some
follow it
research.
up, and I'll have to get some statistics and get some people in
Do
here.
some analytical
Research, exactly.
I don't know. I wouldn't put him in my top 5 favorite or even the top 5 best, but I will say he was the first one way back when I was little that got me into hip hop, which is terrible. But
I mean,
at the age of
all
like
those
10
early
to
2000
11
rappers, it's really hard to pick from because I was raised with like 50 Cent, Nelly.
Right.
And then you got rappers like Chingy.
Yeah, it was just a diverse field.
There was either like those serious like rappers like Eminem and stuff,
Yeah.
and then they spoke from the heart, or you had those like crunk rappers like Lil Jon.
Yeah.
And okay.
50 Cent's like, yo, I've been shot and stabbed. I'm hard. I will kill you. And then, he's not that way anymore. But then, like, you have, like, some other dudes, like, I'm in my white tee. Yo, I got my chain. Like, all the bling rap. It was just the bling rap era was weird, man. It was a time.
The Soulja Boy?
Yeah, the ringtones, man.
Yeah.
I remember all that days.
The ringtones. I remember those apps. The ringtone. I don't know where those things went, but like Zedge.
Oh, yeah.
So you've messed with Zedge?
I haven't messed with it, but I do know what you're talking about.
Because everybody used to like really care about what their ringtone
Man, it was
on
like
their
stat
phone.
symbol.
Yes, it was. It was like because any ringtone that you had correlated with your personality.
Absolutely.
It really did.
And
because
it felt like a huge decision of like what song encapsulates how I feel about the world. And then it would be like, Usher or something like that. So it was, I don't know. I kind of miss those there. I can't tell you the last time my phone has actually rang out loud. Now that I think about it.
Mind blowing, because that's the same thing. I always have it on vibrate.
Yeah.
And I don't like having it
Let's
out loud
bring it back,
anymore.
man. Like, let's go download Soulja Boy ringtone. Kiss me through the phone.
I don't think there's any apps like that
There's
anymore.
Probably not.
I
wouldn't even know how to do that.
Well, the thing is though, is what happened is I went through some phase or whatever. I just wanted to be goofy or whatever, and I wanted to change my text ringtone
Nice.
to like the tongue roll, like the.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to change it to that,
Okay.
and so I was like, how can I do this? So what I did is I went to my MP3 download, MP3 whatever,
Yeah.
and I took the best tongue roll that I could find in a rap song, took it in, clipped it, and then you used to be able to do it on MacBooks.
Yeah.
But you can't do it anymore. They've been really cracking down on the third party stuff and the pirating music and stuff.
Definitely.
And so I used to be able to have a thing called ringtones or whatnot. And I would click and drag it into there, and it would pop up on my phone, and I would be able to make my text tone whatever I wanted.
The golden age, man.
I know. Now it's not. And I used to have Zedge as well, and used to be able to personalize whatever thing I wanted to, but now it's just like you have to stick with these boring
it's the iPhone ringtone has been a set of xylophone for like the last 10 years, like do 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 do.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Come on now.
It's the same people who make me irritated about how they have their ringer on of when you can hear them texting.
Yeah. If you're and it's like, come on now. It's probably some 55-year-old CEO making, six figures, way more than I ever will. But you got your phone turned on when you're typing and your keyboard's making noise. So like, who really is ahead here?
Exactly. But Kanye. Okay. So the Donda album, Hurricane. I actually like that song. It was a pretty good song.
Cool choir samples in there.
I wish they used it more.
Yep.
Like, a lot of people wish they used the choir more with the Weeknd's voice. But I think the biggest thing is I agree with you on every aspect of the new believer thing, how it correlates from him. But the thing is though is I think what's really cool is he gave rappers that usually rap about drugs, lean, all that stuff, and he gave them an opportunity to be able to be like, hey, this is my Christian album. You can come up here and all we're doing just glorify God and whatnot. And he had people The Weeknd, he had Lil Baby, which I was impressed. Cool, and I was very surprised to see that.
Baby's put out some cool stuff recently, so
he has, and he actually went off on that one part, and he was just talking about how his friends died and stuff, and how God's helped him and stuff. And I was like, because I'm not saying that this would happen, and I hope that they would build a better relationship with Christ. Yeah. But my thing is people don't understand when you're that rich and famous, how much harder it is. Yeah. It reminds me of the Bible verse. It's hard. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich person to enter the gates of heaven. So I think of that when it applies to any of the rappers and stuff, because they have all this stature, they have all this everything, they have all this pressure on them, and if they start trying to switch over to any religious stuff such as Christianity, where we're not looked at so hot nowadays, where it's very very pressured. So for Lil Baby to go on there, that may be his one opportunity, maybe his only one opportunity, one chance to kind of take the stuff that he's been wanting to say in his raps, but he hasn't been able to, or he feels too pressured to hold in and he spills it out. Yeah. So
it was cool. I agree. Also I think there was I think it was in the song Jesus Lord. They had Jay Electronica come on, and I'm pretty sure Jay Electronica is a practicing Muslim, and he went on depth and basically explained his faith too. So I'm not a practicing Muslim, but I thought it was cool that Kanye was allowing people to come on and talk about their faith, or at least they were willing to throw Kanye a bone, if nothing else, and say something. So it was some cool stuff to come out of it. I kind of wish that he wouldn't have at the last minute included, the Marilyn Manson and the baby Chris Brown. Mostly, if nothing else, for the fact that it was a song about it. I mean, a whole album about his mother. And those are three people with, and I don't know what all is true and what's not, but with some serious things like violence against women, obviously with Chris Brown. I don't know the full details on Marilyn Manson's case, but some of the things, his allegations have come out against him, that wasn't a good look at the end. I wish he wouldn't have done that at the last minute. Also, those versions of the songs are just inferior. You don't go from Jay-Z to the Baby, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, there was Playboy Cardi on there, you had to bleep out, out or cut out, because literally they were cussing on it, and all of a sudden you could easily tell that they were, because they were just cut.
It was just like they took the lyric out of it.
And then all of a sudden you just hear Playboy Cardi go, and you're like, hold on a second, what's he saying? Oh wait, he wasn't allowed to say that. Right. And so and I'm like, what was the point of even having him in the song? If
I could see if Kanye was including some of those people in there to try to make some point about forgiveness or mercy or something like that, but I just don't think that ever crystallized. Some of those people like the Baby or the Marilyn Manson, I don't think that ever fully came to be.
No, it made some weird vibes.
But it was definitely, I wish he wouldn't have done it at the end, but that being said, a lot of the other guest slots was really a highlight for me anyways.
Oh, for sure.
Also, I have not listened to the Drake album. I don't plan on listening to the Drake album.
I don't either. I have not enjoyed Drake for a while.
Somehow, Kanye releasing a full, like, just black squares as album cover was still a better album cover than that thing that Drake put out. I don't know if you've seen it. For Drake's album cover for his album that just dropped.
I don't know.
Brother, it's literally just 16 pregnant women emojis.
No way.
And that's his official album cover.
See, I don't follow up on Drake because it's like
fine. It was so 10 years from now, it may be iconic. Like, yeah, that's the one.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of become a meme now. You may have seen it.
Okay,
but like 10 years from now, that may be iconic. But man, that's just, as a graphic designer, like, we can do better than that.
Oh my! I forgot you're a graphic designer. So
yeah.
Okay, so how do you feel about that then?
Man, I don't like it. I see what he was going for, but
what was he? Okay, my thing is hold on a second.
So the name of the album is Certified Lover Boy, and so I can see where maybe that plays into that.
That doesn't have a good look on him though.
No, I wouldn't think so. It did. If nothing else, it has become a meme, and people have like making their own versions of it. Like I've seen a version with like 16 versions of Shaquille O'Neal or...
What's up with everybody posting about being pregnant? Didn't Lil Nas X put something out about him? He had a picture of himself pregnant?
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Yeah, he had an Instagram post and everybody was confused. And he had like a little... This is like literally the third or fourth one where everybody's like promoting pregnancy. I don't know. I'm confused.
The baby.
The baby. There's... The baby, little baby, they all correlate together, man. All these babies.
A lot of babies in the rap industry.
Exactly.
Baby Keem also out.
Baby Keem. Oh, Kendrick's album's coming out too.
Man, Lord, I hope so. Please.
I saw him in concert.
Did you really?
I went to the Hangout Fest in 2018.
No kidding.
And yes.
Kendrick is my all-time, I don't know, okay. He's my favorite rapper in the game now. It's hard to say my all-time favorite, but he is my favorite. And he's been gone a long time. I would really like for him to come back and maybe drop one more and retire.
The reason why I like rappers like Kendrick Lamar so much is he knows he can go away for years.
Yeah.
And as soon as he comes back,
he's got the spotlight again.
He's got the spotlight all in it, and he knows for a fact that he can make one. Have you listened to that new song that he has with?
Yeah, Family Ties, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I listened to it a few times. It was, I mean, it's not like some conceptual masterpiece, but for what it was a fun song. It hit.
I like the music video.
I did. Yeah.
Because I don't really enjoy watching, especially rap music videos, because a lot of them are all about the same.
Yeah, super
stereotypical.
But
I liked his was, it actually meant something.
There was some artistic flair in there.
Yeah. And it just, it wasn't just all girls and drugs and and stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, so this guy actually, had to actually think of a script.
Yeah. Also, some absolutely terrible dance moves by Kendrick in that video. I loved it.
Was it the I am the Omega?
He was dropping all these biblical references and just basically just hitting a half Macarena or something.
Well, it's like, I think I vote once you have enough money. I think your dancing everybody thinks is good. Yeah. I think, like, okay, hold on, like Dawson, like, for example, if I did that, I would look stupid.
Yeah.
But for example,
if you did that on, like, if you went up to a set one night and you got a comedy set and you started doing that, you'd be booed off the stage.
Mm-hmm.
But
if I had $6 million back in me,
if Dave Chappelle did it, it's a different story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's all the man. I didn't even know that was Drake's album cover.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like I said, 10, 15 years from now, back when like we have like a different set of emojis or something, like we may look back at that nostalgically, maybe iconic. But I'm not.
What do you mean? How would that be nostalgic or iconic?
Well, like that's associated with like our use of emojis now. That's like very specific to our culture now. We use them on social media and stuff. So like the way some people look back at MySpace now is kind of a nostalgic. And maybe in 10, 15 years that might.
Do you think like how like Egyptians, like back then we look at hieroglyphics and stuff like that. Like our whole time will die out, and then all that's left is that emote.
2,000 years, there's gonna be professors analyzing.
Literally, that's our hieroglyphics right there. Like that's what it is, and then all of a sudden they just find that and just buried somewhere. Just we do not know who this Drake guy is.
What did Drake of Toronto mean when he posted 16
pregnant
emojis?
That is funny. Oh, man.
Yeah. So, fun times. Honestly, it's kind of an interesting time, a fun time to be a hip-hop fan with all these stuff dropping. It's been a pretty busy year.
Would you say that you're you like all types of music?
Well, I mean, being on the radio show, we've played a lot of all types of music, and I'm kind of more broad than deep. I like a lot of stuff across a lot of genres, but I'm not really like an expert on anything.
Yeah.
I would say. I'm pretty fluent in most things, I would say.
See, I'm not. I like music. I enjoy music, but I'm not into all the like meanings.
Yeah.
Or the like the people who take rappers. I saw this video yesterday, and this guy broke down Kendrick Lamar's rap style.
Yeah.
And it was super dope of how he broke it down.
Mm-hmm.
So he got on Beyonce's album. I forgot what song it was called, but anyways, he rapped like, and he was counting down, and then all of a sudden he stopped counting down, and he stopped like at 6, and he didn't do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the guy was breaking it down that he did do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but he did with syllables.
Interesting.
And I was like, huh. And
Okay.
he even did 0.
Yeah.
And he did, like, I don't know how he did it, but it's like, I watched it, I was fascinated.
What is the name of that song? I know the verse. I can see the album cover. Man, I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but like, just stuff like that.
Kendrick could pull that off. Not many people could.
Well, and my question is from a person that just enjoys his music
who has
standpoint,
the time to realize
who has, yes, and it's like, what would be the point of like doing it that far? But then at the same time, you think about it, like if I was really passionate about music and I was really passionate about whatever, I would do my own creative things. Like for example, you look at a painting.
Yeah.
And you may look at it and be like, oh, that's a cool painting. But then again, they might have used a different stroke pattern or whatever just to correlate with it, just to be like, oh, this is the meaning of it. And there's like, who cares? They just want that one person that can break it down and be like, ah.
I mean, as an art student, I've had to take probably 6 or 7 art history classes so far. And before coming to college, I knew nothing about art, man. And so there'd be times where you just look at a painting and like, oh, that's cool. It's got a cool subject matter. It makes me think for a second, move on to the next one at the museum or something. But then, and that's cool. If that's all it does, it's fulfilled its purpose. But then my professor might be able to teach 3 or 4 lectures on one painting in a row over a couple of weeks. And then you go look at that painting, it's like, oh my gosh, I see all the context behind it. It means so much more. And I think that's fine too. Like I think both are fine. If that's all, if all you get from it is from that's cool, they obviously had some talent. It made me think for a second, move on to the next. Or like, man, here's all the historical context and the context about all these topics they were talking about. And it's like, and the way they were using their brush strokes. Sometimes you can geek out about it, and that's cool too. So I guess music is the same. If you put on the latest, whoever song, and all you listen like, yo, it's kind of cool vibe, that's fine. And if you really dive into it and you start bringing out the thesaurus and the dictionary and all that, and there's levels to enjoying things, I guess.
Exactly. I just want to find the YouTube channel that really broke down the mastermind behind Gucci Gang. I feel like
that's probably out there, man. How many times did Lil Pump repeat Gucci Gang?
And why did he? And there's this whole like Alex Jones conspiracy theory on it.
I promise you it's out there. I guarantee you it's out there.
Oh man, just this. Oh, do you have TikTok?
I do not have TikTok.
And this whole culture of like cringe comedy.
Yeah, that's true.
Because my thing is like I put effort. The reason why I'm correlating this is because of like people who actually put effort into like their music stuff. I think it is more acceptable now to just not give a crap and just put out trash and people just eat it up, and that's what's being promoted. It's just garbage. It's just
okay. All right.
Well, it's just like because I was scrolling through YouTube reels. I mean, there's some stuff is funny. Don't get me wrong, but I was scrolling through YouTube reels and there was like this magician or whatever, and it was all cringe.
Ugh.
It was just cringe, and I have nothing against. I mean, you gotta get your views and get whatever, but like, there's no. I feel like everything is like, it's so opinionated. Like, for example, the people who are behind YouTube or the people who are behind, like, TikTok or something like that, maybe something would be funny to a certain group of people, but if it's not funny to TikTok, then they're taking it down.
There's a whole thing about the algorithms and what's promoted and what gets on the YouTube requested, and that's kind of wild, man. That's a whole other ball of mess.
Well, because then, doesn't that, in a sense, impede on free speech?
Kinda. I mean, legally, it's a little bit different because they're private companies and like they can decide what they want to post. The real so maybe from a legal argument, maybe not. But then when those become the only avenues of mass speaking, then maybe the question is, why is that? Like, why do these companies have a hold on who can speak and who can't? I don't know. It's kind of a tricky subject. It will be interesting to see where it goes over the next few years as things develop more.
Well, it makes me curious too, because I thought Vine was hilarious.
Man, I was just barely too young to get in on Vine.
See, me too.
And just barely too old to really get in on TikTok when it was first coming up. So I was in that little gap. I think nostalgically about a lot of Vines. But then if you go to the Vine reel, it's like, man, some of these suck. Like they're not as good as I remember.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, I was watching, they'll post stuff on TikTok of just, Vine highlights.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. And also gave them a good opportunity to hop on YouTube after it died.
I mean, we opened up a whole thing about dadgum Jake Paul fighting, Floyd Mayweather or whatever, but they started on Vine. Got to YouTube, and now we're making $100 million to fight professional boxers. So,
holy
cow.
If you really give me a piece of the pie, please.
Yeah. Vine was cool because when it was first hitting, it really prioritized humor, production values, and creativity. That's how you got big on Vine, was through those three. And then when TikTok was really starting, it was kind of riding the success of popular songs or other established trends. There's a lot of even discussion of white creators coming on and taking other culture stuff. And so I don't know. I feel like when TikTok, it is better now, but when it was first getting started, it was a lot less focused on the stuff Vine was focused on back in the day.
Well, that's my thing. It's I have TikTok. Mm-hmm. I'll post some stupid stuff sometimes. Yeah. But the thing is I don't like using other people's music.
Yeah.
Or using other people's, the little clips or whatever, the vocals or whatever.
Yeah.
And they just do facial expressions. And that's what my thing is you didn't put any effort.
No.
You put absolutely zero work into it at all. You used somebody else's voice. And all you did was just hold the record button down for 15 seconds. Yeah. And you're like, hold on. How do you get that many likes? You didn't think about you didn't think about anything.
Exactly.
And I feel like the creativity nowadays is kind of going down.
As an artist, there's ways to subvert popular paintings. All throughout art history, somebody will take an idea in one painting and basically recreate the painting, but with a subversive lens. But then if I did a paint by numbers of Van Gogh, that's not gonna, that's why do that? There's no value in that. So there's ways to repurpose other people's stuff and it be creative and add additional layers of meaning. But if you're really literally just actually redoing something somebody has already done, then what's the point of that? And then that stuff is still what blows up sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing, because there's some good underground stuff.
Yeah.
There's some good underground stuff that I have found. Now, I like the video reaction stuff.
Yeah, some of that stuff.
There was this one that I saw of the dog. There's this dog being thrown in the snow. But for a split second, I thought they were being thrown out of an airplane.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
You seen that one?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the guy goes in, he goes, it wasn't just me, or did you think that dog was thrown out of the airplane? Yeah. I'm that's actually funny. They do the little video reactions and stuff. But the people that just, take other people's music.
Yeah, what does it add? Yeah.
Well, and plus, I can't scroll through TikTok at night anymore. I don't know what it is with the algorithm. It was scroll, random girl, scroll, and you're just what the heck? It's almost as almost in a sense TikTok just filters
it wouldn't surprise me, man. I don't know if
it's the whole OnlyFans. It's the whole OnlyFans thing that was about when they came out and said, no more nudity. Yeah. And also they came back out and they were
just a couple of days later. Yeah.
And it got me to question, why do they even do that? Was it just for
publicity's sake
or marketing?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
It could be like that or whatever. But there's some weird stuff. And with TikTok, I don't understand. Because for example, I there's some guys that like, I don't know, I'm not condoning this either, but there'll be like comics or whatever. They'll moon somebody in a picture. Yeah. Taken down. Mm-hmm. But then there's so many other like Instagram models and stuff that do way worse stuff than that.
Shoot, I don't know, man. It's crazy. I could. Who knows, man? It's interesting. I don't know enough about TikTok, but I do know what you're saying. I mean, and everything's got like, Instagram's got their reels now. That's kind of a version of what TikTok does, and I mean, Twitter's got their own thing, and man, you can find yourself 70, 80 deep in those reels before you even know like what's going on. Like you just sit there and you just zone out, and just get lost in it for sure. And that's the way it's designed to do. It's designed to keep your attention. So,
oh, for sure.
If you like trucks or or cars or guitars or something, it's gonna feed you those over time as it relates like that. And that's kind of interesting. And especially like political stuff, man. Like if you lean one way or the other, it's going to pick up on that and then just start feeding you things that already confirm what you believe one way or the other. And that's how we get people way out on the fringes real quick. So, I don't know. It's an interesting time.
It really is. Mm-hmm. But then it also correlates to, like, what do you think about companies that are coming out with, like, this satanistic stuff or that kind of stuff? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes some of that is black and white. Like, let's say Adidas comes out with a shirt like tomorrow and it says Adidas loves Satan. Like, don't buy that. Like, as a Christian, just do not buy that. That's black and white. But then some other things, maybe it's not so clear. And I would say that the Bible, like, kind of speaks to this a little bit. Like, for example, the most recent one that sticks out in the mind is, the Lil Nas X. He did a shoe. It wasn't, like, Nike didn't make the shoe. I believe it was a smaller creative company, like, called Mischief or something like that.
Well, yeah, because they just took Nike's shoe.
Basically.
And did that. And then they designed it.
So, like, I'm not going to buy the shoe. I don't think you should buy the shoe, but maybe don't boycott Nike over it, And then again, like, Nike, that is the Greek god of victory. So do we not buy Nike shoes? Do we not buy Nike hats? And those kind of questions came up in the Bible. Like, Jude, the book of Jude talks about, if people are sinning or they're falling away from the faith, it makes kind of a metaphor. It's like, hey, don't even touch the clothes that have touched sin. Like, don't even touch the garment that is sinful. And so, like, if we're talking about clothes or stuff, like, don't even associate with that stuff. Like, run from it. But it also says do that with mercy. Like, if you're trying to confront sin, lean in with mercy. It says be careful that you do it with mercy. But then again, like, you look at Jesus, and Jesus was accused of being a drunkard or hanging out with people that he shouldn't have, prostitutes and, liars and the tax collectors that stole from people. And they're like, Jesus, are you these things, Jesus, because you hang out with these? So as a believer, there's kind of that fine line of, we say be in the world but not of the world. And there's kind of some grace on, like, how far on that spectrum do we go? Like, do we not say the days of the week or the planets or the months of the year because they're tied with Greek and Roman gods? Or, like, do we go that far? Back in the 90s, like, you had Christians boycotting Pokemon and Star Wars, especially Harry Potter and stuff like that, because, like, they're calling that satanic and witchcraft. Do we go that far? Do we not even touch the garment?
It just becomes. I get what you're saying, because now it gets to a point where it becomes too nitpicky.
Exactly. And
where, like, if you don't want to buy from one company, then you're setting yourself up to kind of be picky of like what other companies you pick from. And honestly, like, the stuff that I have now, I mean, like, this computer that I'm using, like, who knows? Like, there's probably some factory out in China,
sweatshop,
and then some kid put this together, and you're like, oh, well, dang. Mm-hmm. Now I gotta give up all my Apple products, and it just kind of gets to the point of where it gets a little too excessive. Mm-hmm. And my thing is like, biblically as well, is like, that's what I was gonna mention as well as what you said, and I don't think that it's like I'm not gonna boycott a whole company just because they make their decisions on what, and plus also it wasn't really Nike that did that.
Yeah, exactly.
And he just took that, and it's kind of like Tony Hawk. Yeah. Did you see what Tony Hawk did?
Yeah, with the skateboards with the blood.
Yeah. I don't really know how to feel about that. It's a little off, a little odd.
I mean, I'm probably not going to buy a blood skateboard, but I don't know if I tell you not to buy one, you know.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not a fan of that either. But then they were trying to correlate that
Yeah.
into a thing. And I don't know. I think those are two separate things in a way. Because one's promoting something that may and then the other one is just odd. You know, because a lot people sell a lot of odd things.
There's a lot of odd things.
But
one passage that came to mind, and this is in Romans. This is Paul talking, and basically he's addressing a debate about basically that in that time, some people, like, let's say they lived in Greece or wherever, they would sacrifice certain meats to gods that weren't, you know, the God of Christianity, and then they would sell that meat again in the market. And there was a debate among early Christians of whether they could eat that meat because they didn't believe in those gods. So, like, what's it to us? But also, should we be associating with this stuff that, like, is been used in sinful ways? And so Paul kind of lays out some gray area. Basically, he says one good thing is, like, this is in chapter 14 of Romans. It says, therefore, let us no longer judge one another. Instead, decide never to put a stumbling block or pitfall in the way of your brother or sister. I know and I'm persuaded in the Lord Jesus that nothing is unclean in itself. So basically, like, the meat being meat, that's nothing wrong. The shoe being a shoe, just because it's a shoe doesn't make it wrong. Still, to someone who considers a thing to be unclean, that one thing is unclean. He says, for if your brother or sister is hurt by what you eat, you are no longer walking according to love. Do not destroy by what you eat someone for whom Christ died. Basically, he's saying, like, hey, say I'm not really offended by eating the meat that's been sacrificed to the other gods, but it really bothers you. I'm not about to pull out a steak and eat it right in front of you. If I know both of us ahead of time have talked about that, if that's going to cause you to stumble or if that's going to hurt your walk with Christ, don't do it. So, like, maybe I have the Nike shoes on, or like Adidas. Like, Adidas was founded by a reformed Nazi, Adidas and Puma, which is kind of wild. We don't talk about that a lot. Adi Dassler was his name. He left Nazism. That doesn't bother me. He left Nazism. It's not associated with it anymore. It doesn't really bother me. You know, we don't associate that with Hitler. You know, like, these are not hateful shoes. But man, if you come from a Jewish family, and like we've talked about that, and like I'm probably not about to flaunt my Adidas wear all over. So yeah, I don't know. And so a lot of times it's applied to drinking. Like, I don't drink personally, but not to say I never will. But if I know, like, maybe your parents or maybe you or something had an alcoholism history, and like if seeing a drink triggers that in you, I'm not about to drink around you.
I totally agree with that.
And so, yeah, and then it goes on to say, like, in verse 19, so then, and this is really key, let us pursue what promotes peace and what builds up one another. Do not tear down God's work because of food. Everything is clean, but it is wrong to make someone fall by what he eats. It is a good thing not to eat the meat or drink the wine or do anything that makes your brother or sister stumble. Whatever you believe about these things, keep it between yourself and God. And it says, blessed is the one who does not condemn himself by what he approves, but whoever doubts stands condemned if he eats, because he is eating not from faith, and everything from faith is sin. Basically, he goes on to say, be convinced in your own mind of what you believe on the essentials, like Jesus died, raised, resurrected, died for our sins. Like, we need to be unified on that. But on some of this gray area stuff, like, back up what you believe with Scripture. Don't cause one another, like, don't hurt one another in it. But there's room for both people to be convinced in their own mind, and like neither one of them be wrong. So, like, if you saw that there's this Nike shoe come out and you're like, yo, I don't want nothing to do with Nike, like, that's cool. And if someone else come out with it and say, like, yo, Nike really didn't do that, I'm not really messed up about that, I'm gonna still wear the shoe, like, that's cool. Like, both of those are, if they're backing up what they believe with Scripture, that's cool. And honestly, I think that's the way we approach some of these things. Like, if, you know, the North Face come out with, like, the North Face loves the devil, like, don't put that hoodie on. But past that, there's some area to walk a fine line based on how you interpret Scripture.
Well, because I personally like Converse.
Yeah.
And I saw Donnie, the college minister, he posted something about how they came out with their own versions, like these Satan shoes or whatever as well. And it's like, I don't know if this is about to be a trend.
Maybe.
I hope it's not a trend.
I would hope so.
But it's starting to look like that it's becoming a trend among companies, or i.e. people, like, they're just hopping on it, and I don't know where it's coming from. But my thing is, though, is like, I'm personally not going to stop wearing Converse. I've always liked Converse. I like how
Chuck
they
Taylor's,
fit.
man.
Yes, I like how they fit. I've always enjoyed them. Now the Adidas thing, that was very interesting, and I do agree of not making another person stumble.
Yeah,
and I think it's the like doing your own research kind of thing.
Verse 19, let us pursue what promotes peace and what builds up on another. And that's just for the Christian faith, man. Like, promote peace, build up on another. Don't tear each other down.
Exactly. And my thing is specifically like what I wear.
Yeah.
Like the Adidas thing. If I'm around someone who's Jewish, I would have never known that.
Yeah.
And because I like wearing Adidas, I would have never known that.
It's kind of interesting. Like, there was two brothers that founded Adidas and Puma. They were the Dassler brothers, I want to say, and they were German. And the one that founded Adidas left Nazism, wrote out against it later. But the one that founded Puma never did. He never renounced it. So it's kind of interesting, man. Like, who knows? Like, never talk about that.
But my thing is, though, is that then it comes into the judging thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so I'm not, is like, people have their own beliefs. So you're not going to wear that shoe because you don't agree with what their stance is and judge them for it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And it's like, I enjoy wearing Converse now. If they start now trying to have like a whole line of them, it's going to make it a hard market for me to buy normal Converse.
Yeah.
And every customizable option's just got 6s on it.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to see me ever wearing Converse ever again. But
don't touch the garment affected with sin, brother. So.
Exactly. But if there is like a line of like where there's still, normal shoes, then it's kind of like, did Starbucks have something like that for a little bit? Like they had like this.
I can't remember.
They had like the Satan cups.
Oh, I don't remember.
I feel like Starbucks. I swear I saw that. Like it was like in 2020 they had like some like cups or whatever, and people were saying there was like some Satanism behind it or something like that. But I don't know. Here recently it has became a trend, or starting to become something of like where more and more people are starting to up the whole Satanist culture thing, and it's, I don't know, it's a very hard thing to kind of like, I don't really know what to really, I haven't really thought about it really, because it hasn't really been like a huge major issue or a huge major like topic until here recently.
It is kind of crazy, man. I do think there was a point where Christians were calling everything Satanist that weren't. Like Metallica was Satanist. If you played the Beatles records backwards, they said Satan lyrics. Like, again, Pokemon was Satan. Like there was a time when everything was Satanist, and that's not the right approach to it. But then again, like now that actually some things are coming out, and I don't think I don't think we go out and call everything Satan against, because that makes us again look really gullible. It's also like we're lying. Like if a pastor comes out and says Pokemon is of the devil, like that's a lie. Like So we don't do that, but we also don't ignore the problem either. I'm talking
about just specific things that you could I understand that, like, don't dance because it's
Footloose,
don't dance because it's from the devil,
right?
And I'm not talking about any of that kind of stuff. Yes, I can understand.
So we don't do that, but then we also don't ignore the problem.
Ignore the problem. Well, then that leads into like, what do you think as Christians we should do to kind of like, I'm not really, because there was this. This thing keeps popping in my head because this is back when I had Twitter a long time ago, and it has impacted me on many of level of social media, because social media tends to not be like a really, or a lot of ways, like the trending stuff doesn't have anything to correlate. It's just all negative. And then one day I was on Twitter, and literally the number one trending thing during like the whole, this was like during the time where protests were really big and stuff. It said like hashtag cancel Christianity. And I was like, oh no. I was like, oh man, this is about to be where like the heavens part, and and Jesus is about to be coming down. He's like, I've had enough. And I was like, oh dang, I've never seen. But then I clicked on it. And it was just a bunch of Christians quoting Bible verses. And just all the Christians just teaming up together. And it just all started with one person just wanting to cancel Christianity, and it's like, there's hope. It's like, I think that, I feel like that, I think a lot of times that Christians right now are like, tend to be silent on a lot of issues just because they don't want to, like, like I for one don't want to step on anybody's toes, and but I want to just be loving and do exactly what my hat says.
That's right, man.
and
we need more of that, honestly.
Exactly, and that's where I want to be right now. But everybody like tries to just find you slipping.
Yeah.
And it's just hard it's just hard to think about that. So the cancel Christianity thing really popped in my head, and it makes me realize like I feel like if things tend to get too far, that we as Christians will be able to I feel like that the team up sense would be
Man, I do think that the church has the church always is going to slip up because we are people. People slip up. People sin. Jesus says, I believe in Luke, that offenses are going to come. Like, it's impossible for Christians not to slip up. But the church has done, I'd say in the last 30 to 40 years, has done a pretty poor job at, like, leading with love your neighbor. Leading with, serving others and showing them Christ. And it's more and more became tied up to a political identity, to stances, and not to say that Christians don't have opinions on things. But in America, at least, Christianity has been on the decline since about the 80s, and but worldwide, it's popping off. The average Christian right now today, I think I saw demographically, is like a 25-year-old black woman in Africa, whereas 100 years ago it was a white English man. And so, like, Christianity is on the rise. So something's going on in the United States, and I would love to see a generation of Christians rise up that are leading with love again, and not like let's be political to you. Because I think as long as Christians are continuing to hurt people, like there's obviously going to be pushback against that, in a non-believing world. And like, denomination like the SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention, which I'm a member of, have been for life. And that goes back to the conversation we were having earlier, was founded based on whether or not missionaries could own slaves. It's like there was the Baptists in America. There was some Southern people. It's like, hey, we want our missionaries to be slave owners. They said you can't do that, so the SBC split off. That's how that started. And it's like,
see, that's the thing is like, I like because I have not been in church that long. Yeah. Like honestly, and I've only been like second was my first church community ever, and I've only been there since January.
Yeah.
And it's like crazy because like all these all the people that come to me and let me know like the political side of things or like the deeper things of church because they've always grown up in a church community and they've grown up their whole lives in church where I have not.
Wild, man.
And it's wild to learn some things because do you think almost that I don't know if I'm saying this wrong, but like coming from my perspective, is it better to like not know all the political stuff and just be at the basics of where I'm at, or be consumed, or like where you're at, where you have seen like all the like how some churches can get way too political and stuff, because then the love your neighbor kind of thing is.
I guess you can. I guess it would be wrong to be totally, and I don't mean this hatefully sense of the word, like ignorant as in you don't know. Like if you don't know anything, like I would say don't stay there long. Like, but also you can get so in the weeds to where you're fighting denominational battles over stuff that just don't matter. Like Paul tells Timothy, I think, like don't get bogged down with useless debates about words and translations and stuff like that. Like that's in the Bible. And that's the same stuff that Christians find themselves debating on, like online and getting really contentious with. And like, okay, a non-believer sees that, and they think Christians just fighting over petty stuff. I don't want to be a part of that. So I can say, man, like in a general sense, don't get so bogged down with the political stuff that you just lose your head. But also, it is good to at least know a little bit about what's going on, especially when you look at the historical stuff, like how the church has been used to hurt people in the past. Like I remember Canada not too long ago came out with like ways, like there was these Native Americans, hundreds of dead children at this Christian school. Like I think as Christians we need to know the way Christianity has hurt people in the past so that we can correct that. Like I think it's important to know that the SBC was founded about slavery, and you can have a very serious conversation about whether or not I even want to still be in it, even though they've renounced that years later because of that. Like they've had one African American president, that was Dr. Fred Luter, about 10 years ago. And they're going in the right direction, but like it's important to know that like the way that we've hurt people so we can correct it. So don't get so bogged down in the weeds and the details and stuff that you're just not talking about anything productive. But also, don't stay in a position long where you don't know much of anything. And that's with anything, man. I think if you should like be well informed on what school you go to or what car you buy or stuff like that. So I don't know. There's gray area.
Well, exactly, and I mean I agree with like, but the thing is though is like, I feel like as Christians, there's levels.
Yeah.
Of like when you're in the church, of what information you get to know. So for example,
Definitely.
if you
very hierarchical.
Yeah. So for example, if you're like you're a pastor or you're a lot more things, especially on the political side, than a lot of other people know, and
it's to an extent that's helpful. Like maybe as a pastor, what information is pertinent to you to leading a church is not as pertinent to you just everyday follower, like everyday believer.
I do agree. Yeah. I mean I do agree to that. My thing is though is I've never been a political person.
Yeah.
My thing is especially like I didn't really know how political churches could get sometimes.
Definitely.
I was very ignorant to that, and since me actually being a part of church and joining of the church like my first one, like I've come to learn about a lot of different things, and it's even sad to see like even people in our own churches that still feel like the people that are even lost out in the world of like being judged and being whatever, because it's like of the perfect status or whatever that some Christians tend to feel like they have to be like. And I don't know, that's what like last Thursday, that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
And that's why I said what I said on stage, is because I've talked to too many people, man.
Yeah. Too
many people where like even like Christians where they just feel like they just don't want to talk about their problems or talk to anybody because they feel like that they're going to be an outcast.
Definitely, man. A big part of my story, man, I was kind of hurt by the church at an early age, and like hurt by church people, and that like even as a believer, like that sucks. And so I kind of felt like other believers they didn't want to talk about their problems, and they all live perfect lives, or at least pretend to live perfect lives. And so because of that, I didn't want nothing to do with the church. But then what really helped me out with that is I got around a group of believers that like actually shared what they were struggling with, like actually shared the way they were messed up, and actually shared the way that the struggles they were going through that maybe wasn't their fault at all. And so that, man, that is super, super attractive to like realness. Like, hey, we mess up. We are hypocrites because we're going to sin and like we're going to fall short of the glory of God. Like, come in here and let us share with you what we've been going through lately, and like get on a deep personal level and lean on each other in hard times. Like that's kind of also lacking in the church. And because it's tough, man. Nobody wants to tell about their crap,
Have I told you how I got to second?
I don't think so, actually.
You have, okay.
Well, so, maybe I know a little bit, but go on.
So I moved here. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've ever really told you like my testimony, really.
A little bit. Bits and pieces.
Bits and pieces. Okay, it's kind of long. Mm-hmm. So basically, what happened was like I went to Austin. Things didn't work out in stand up that I thought that we were gonna do. I figured out that during COVID that I was not doing, that I was doing everything for self instead of God.
Right.
And I grew very, very distant, and I became like very, very, very depressed. And so like one of my friends called me, and he was just like, "Hey, dude, we came down there to visit you. You're not the same," kind of thing. Like, are you doing good? Dude, found out that I haven't even read my Bible in about 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I know, dude. It was insane. It was just because I was just holding on to everything. And so I took that, and I just, was like, I'm going to start this podcast.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna quit, I stopped cussing because of the leading by example thing. And, I just wanted to start this podcast to kind of like, it like was like a restart. And I was like, you know what? I don't care how I don't care. This is now, like, I want this whole thing as an audio journal, kind of like my whole life. Like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And
I hope you do.
So, yeah, so when people, like, see the beginning, I want them to see the difference over time.
Right.
And I want them to also see, like, also that I was not perfect. I bet you can go back right now, and it'd be like, oh, dang, Dawson, what were you talking about in episode 4 or whatever, dude? Like, you're not the same as you were now. Well, of course I wasn't.
Right.
I was just actually starting to try to actually, become, closer to God and stuff like that. And there's always a starting point. And I feel like people just try to delete that part of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came here to Conway, and I was just going to Summit with my friend for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was just going to church because I was like, I think that's what because I've never went to church before.
Right.
And because I was hurt by it as well, because my stepmom, she was a religious fanatic, and my dad married her, and like she just gave me that like just wrong, like she's just very manipulative with it and stuff. So then like I was just very turned off with it, and so I was like, I just felt like that. If I just go, and just participate, then that'll be fine. Well, then Walter, we met at a coffee shop. And he came in, he's like, hey, I have nowhere else to sit. How about I sit by y'all? And I was like, all right, come on in. So we had a conversation, and I just told him, I was like, hey, I don't know, I'm just trying to try out churches and stuff. He's like, how about you come to Second? And then I went there Sunday. Yeah. Loved it. He invited me to go Thursday night. Loved it. And that Thursday night, I think it was the first Thursday night that I went, that I have never shared my testimony with anybody else before. Right. And I sat down there, and I was in a circle it was me, Blake, Owen, Britt, and
squad.
Britt and one of the McKissick twins. Yeah. I think it was Carter.
Probably.
It was. But we were all sitting there, and I don't know what. I came on it was testimony night. And
share your story night.
Yeah. Share your story night. So we all got in a huddle group or whatever, and we was with Blake, and just God set up that moment, dude. And I was literally just like, I was hearing everybody talking, and then Blake looked at me and goes, hey, Dawson. I was like, dude, I've never really shared before. And he's like, hey, dude, it's all good. You go for it. And so I just literally spilt out my whole story. I was sobbing, and that was the first time that I've ever felt like, support, but like a church community or just other believers, other people just coming in with like open arms and stuff. And it was like, I felt so good after that. Yeah. Just releasing all of that. And so then after that, I was, wanting to, become a member. I was wanting to, do as much as I can through Second, just because like I've loved the community. Mm-hmm. But also then now it motivated me to now where I'm in the position now, where I want to give that to other people. Yeah. And, absolutely. And it all started because of like the community that was already there. And it was awesome to see, man.
Man, one of the coolest things about the way the gospel actually like works out in our lives is that almost everybody's got some kind of something that can point back to the gospel, man. Like when Jesus was on earth doing his ministry, some people were actually hungry, and the way he ministered to them was like he gave them something to eat. It's like, all right, now let me tell you how this relates to like you're spiritually hungry, and how I'm the only thing that can satisfy. But long before you can preach to somebody, like if they're hungry, they're not gonna listen to you. Like if they're living in an area that's being like super policed or gentrified or something like that, like maybe the way you minister to them is like, let me listen from you and let me learn what you're going through, and like let me see if I can improve the situations around you. Like we can come alongside you or something. Or like maybe somebody has like struggling with like grief or something, or loss or something. Like the Bible says, like the only true religion is to minister to widows and orphans, like people that have experienced loss and vulnerability. Like maybe let me show you how like there is hope. Like everything, and everybody's got a story. And as long as the church is just like pointing at lost people, it's like, man, y'all suck. Like y'all are ruining things. Like of course they're not going to want to embrace that. But if you say, look, I see the hurt here. Let me listen to you. Let me hear about your story. Tell me about yourself. How are you hurting? What's going good in your life? Let me show you how all that points back to Jesus. Like, that's the approach. And I think, honestly, I really do think that kind of thing is on the move right now in the American church. Like, I think that is becoming more prominent. Praise Jesus.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree that it's a thing that, I have been in the church community for long. I don't know all the history behind like certain churches and stuff, but I am about done reading Acts. Yeah. And sometimes it makes me think. It makes me wonder, like, why can't things be like that now? Kind of like, things are just so much simpler. It's just like I feel like Christianity in some ways, like people can't be on the same page. Yeah. In a lot of ways, and hence why there's so many different denominations and stuff like that. And I've always wondered that of why there is so many different types of denominations and stuff. And I was watching this YouTube video, and this guy, he just went to different denominations, different churches. They're all basically the same.
Yeah.
It's just like the difference is it's just the traditions and just the different ways that they do
True.
stuff.
The governance systems a lot of times, but yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like on the essential things, man. Like, if you don't believe Christ came, died, resurrected, paid for your sins, like we ain't with it. But on the non-essentials, maybe. And everyone's going to decide what the non-essentials are a little bit differently. But like, there's grace to be. We can disagree on this based on the way we read the scriptures. And you don't want to put that on everything. Like, if you put that too much, it basically becomes the Bible is whatever I interpret it to be. So you don't want to walk that way. But you also don't want to say, like, the way I read the Bible is the only right way.
Oh.
And if you believe otherwise, you're wrong. Like, so there's got to be a little bit of grace on the non-essentials, for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's just like it was just my curiosity of why there's so many different ones. Is because it's like, you would think that if it was like Acts, you know, like they just started with the group and they were just like getting the group of them. I don't know really. I guess what you think is because like when things got political.
Some of them, I mean, definitely the church is the way, even the last 2,000 years, the way the church has interacted with politics is crazy. Like, the way that the Roman Catholic Church, before it was even known as that, was like tied up to like the political entities of the day back in the day, and and then there was the Reformation, which got extremely political, and like wars were fought over whether or not they were Protestant or Catholic, and then like maybe the Church of England comes up and it ties that specific church with their government system. Like, definitely can get political. And even today, as you've got even in America, we have hundreds and hundreds of Protestant denominations. And sometimes that's super political. I don't think denominations in and of themselves are a bad thing. Like, sometimes it's very important to, like, have a set theology that you believe in and defend. And, like, on some things we do disagree because they are essentials. But, like, I think it's when the denominations stop working together. Like, when they start seeing it as a competition, or, like, they're mostly fighting with each other and not working together.
Well, that's my problem. It's because like
there's no unity
I just see Baptists working with Baptists.
Mm-hmm.
And I see but I don't see all the churches like in Conway working together.
That would be incredible.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know. That's just a thought that I had in my head. I was like, why is it just a specific church that we work with instead of like all all of them? Because aren't we supposed to all just be on the same page and we're all going for the same purpose?
Man, and it does happen some. Not to say churches don't cross the line at all. It does happen some, but I don't think it happens enough, man. Like, one passage that comes to mind with that, man, is in John. It's actually during the Last Supper, if you've seen the painting with the the 13 white guys.
Exactly.
Anyway, so artist again. Jesus is praying, and basically he's praying to the Father right before he goes to be crucified for future believers, like future Christians, which is us. And Jesus says, I pray for not only these, that's talking about the 12 disciples, but also for those who believe in me through their word. So basically every believer from here on out. May they, all the believers, be one, like unified, as you, Father, are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe you sent me. I am in them and you in me, so that they may be know. So I have given them the glory you have given me, so that they may be one as we are one. I am in them and you are in me, so that they may be completely one, that the world may know you have sent me and that you love them as you have loved me. Basically, Jesus is praying that Christians would be unified the same way him and the Father are unified, and that's mind-boggling to think about. And he says that when Christians are unified, when they are one, the world will know that Jesus is God. Like, that's a wild thought. Like, what is it about Christians being together that makes other people believe in Jesus? Like, that is so wild.
That's insane.
And so, like, Jesus, apparently unity is very big to Jesus. He prays to God about it right before he goes to die. And so I wish there was more unity. And I don't think that has to look like uniformity. Like, I wish there was no denominations like it is in Acts. But it's something we have now. And sometimes that is just as simple as, like, the way they move their money around the missions. And there's something to be said for that. But, like, I think we can have different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different, come from different places, different stories, especially like we were talking about. And there's something beautiful in, like, it's not uniform, but it is unity. And I think maybe that is what could be really attractive to a non-believing world. Like, if Christians would stop fighting, denominationally, politically, however, and just work together. Like, love God, love people.
Dude, and I completely agree with that, because now that am interning, I am starting to see some sides of political stuff that I just necessarily just do not really like.
And even inside denominations, they'll fight people inside the same denomination.
Like, for example, I wear second merch a lot. Like I go to work and just wear it and stuff like that. Not necessarily just to like rep the church, but just to let people know.
They also have some fly looking stuff sometimes.
Dude, they do. And I'm telling you, the dry fit stuff that they got going on, perfect for work. I'm telling you, if you don't, I can get you some.
We were not sponsored.
This is not sponsored at all. And they just got some great options. And the thing is though, is I didn't really realize it, because I just wear it because it's comfy. Yeah. But I've also found out that there's also people, like, even that I go to work with and stuff, that just don't like second.
Yeah, I mean.
And I'm just like, what's your problem with them? And they'll tell me like some of the issues that they've had with that specific church and stuff. And I'm just like, I mean, I respect that. I mean, it's all good, but I mean, I don't know. Are you trying to tear me down because I go to that? Are you trying to tear me down because I go to that church or whatever? I mean, I'm just trying to do what every other Christian's supposed to be doing, is just spreading the gospel, and getting people just love everybody. It doesn't matter where we go. It's like I could care less about the specifics. It's like, because it's almost as if they're like, all right, cool, you're a Christian? Oh yeah, cool. What church you go to? Oh.
And then that changes things. Like,
so you're that kind of Christian.
Exactly.
What do you mean that kind of Christian?
Exactly.
Or are we just supposed to just be Christian?
Man, that was something I struggled with, especially when I first came to college, and it was like all the other ministries and stuff. Like, 'cause I was used to the way my experience with Christianity, and then now all these other people that experience it a little bit differently. Like, and you had all the different college ministries. Man, I used to like roast other ministries that I wasn't a part of, or I didn't believe didn't exactly believe how they did, and like, that's wrong. Like, that is not of God to be doing that to other believers, or really to anybody. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, that was something I struggled with for a very long time, and I don't think that's not attractive at all. That's not walking with Christ. Man, if I can, I had this scripture pulled up to talk about the satanic imagery and stuff, but I actually think it speaks to what we're talking about now.
Well, you know what? This will be the perfect way to wrap things up.
All right, we've been going a good minute. So this is in Galatians, and this is, if you've ever as a kid heard like the fruit of the Spirit, or love, joy, peace, patience, all that little rhyme we spit off. This is the same chapter. It's Galatians 5, and Paul is describing things that are of the flesh, basically sinful. He says, now works of the flesh are obvious. And he talks about the obvious things, like the sorcery, the idolatry, like, it's obvious if somebody has got, like a Satan shirt on. Like, that's probably not a good thing to have. But then he lists a lot of things that I think sometimes we get really lax on, and that are like just as bad as a Satan t-shirt, like sexual immorality, moral impurity, promiscuity. But then, hatred, strife, jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, dissensions and factions, envy. Like, are we stirring the pot? Like, are we gossiping about people? Like, are we trying to divide and like really like score a point on somebody or dunk on somebody? And like, as Christians within the same church, within the same denomination, politically, on Facebook, like, yeah, that's linked in there with sorcery. Like, I may not be a witch, but sometimes I hate folk. And then he goes on like,
I'll put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Drunkenness, carousing, anything similar. He said, I am warning you about these things, as I warned you before, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Like, something to think about, man. Like, we don't even touch the garment associated with sin. Like, don't even mess with the satanic shoes. But are you running somebody down on Twitter? Like,
very that hits deep, man. And I feel like that's more things that people need to hear.
Yeah. Well, but then here's the good news. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Those who belong to Christ have been crucified with the flesh and its passions and desires, so we can live by the Spirit. Man, like, if you're walking with Christ, these things ought to be what's coming out of you. Like, that's the only hope for it. So we'll see, man.
We'll see. So the big thing is love everybody.
Love your neighbor, brother.
Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor.
Love God, love people, man.
That is the big thing, and I'm so glad that got brought up. I didn't even know when we were going to go that far into the extent.
I didn't either, man. I thought we were going to talk about boxing.
But boxing, we talked about that a little bit at the beginning. But then we got caught up in it. But, dude, it honestly turned out, I feel like that, it was meant to be talked about for a reason. But, dude, I am so happy and pumped that you were able to get on this podcast.
This was really a lot of fun.
And,
nothing
dude,
else, I enjoyed it.
Yes, we definitely need to do it again sometime. I mean, it doesn't...
Sometime soon, man. Hop on the radio show.
Hey, look, I am more than happy to be on that radio show. I'm definitely 100%. Okay, real quick, shout out that radio show.
Okay, so it hasn't started yet. I don't know when you'll publish this.
It's about to die. It's
going to be Thursday morning.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and/or listening to the Last I Go Hart Podcast 2 After Dark. Dalton's radio show is going to be linked in the description, as well as with all my other information, email, Cash App, etc. if you want to donate. Also, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know how much you liked it and enjoyed it, what other information that you would want to have in my future podcasts and stuff, and also if you want to be a guest, let me know. Either way, thank you for listening and watching once again to the Last I Go Hart Podcast 2 After Dark. I will be seeing you next Friday.
Honestly, don't edit that. Leave that as the end.
The Last I Go Hart Podcast.
The audio's still going. Oh, that's so funny, dude.
That is incredible.
That's great.
Perfect timing.
That was
Man, that was a lot of fun.